Okay, so look, this is about New York City. Shout out to Keaton and Russell. Shout out to Larry Sharp. Shout out to Mike from No Sound Bites. Shout out to my also good friend Jose Vega. Yes, those are 5 New Yorkers. See, I know people from New York City. New York City is actually real. But I Am Blakely recently did a comment video reaching out to working families and DSA about how time is running out. And listen, I understand where she's coming from. I do. But unfortunately, I think the progressive movement, the Democrat Party, clearly has dropped the ball. And, when I had Larry Sharp here on the show again, he did not like giving this response, but I understood what he was saying, and he was correct. Andrew Cuomo, as soon as he got in the race, it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to win. Now, New Yorkers, New York City, I mean, did you really forget the last 4 years? But or did you forget 2020? I mean, come on, New York. Come on, New York City. I mean, anyways, so I want to pull this up here. I'm going to pause maybe halfway through, but I want to play this in its full entirety.
This is so bad, you guys. This is so bad. Cuomo was not only beating Zohran Mamdani, who is in second, which is encouraging considering that half the city doesn't even know who Zohran is, but right now he's beating him 37-18. Now, like I said, the good news is that Zohran is still in second place and half the city doesn't even know who he is. Cuomo has 100% name recognition, but
that's not a good thing. Sorry, I said I'd pause halfway through, but listen, yes, half the city doesn't know who he is, but my God, that's terrible messaging.
Remains the bad news. Among Black and Latino voters that are in New York City in the Democratic primary, Cuomo is winning 50-8, 41-20. Now, the kind of ironic thing about this is that Zohran has more support among white voters who are college educated and have higher income, despite the fact that his policies would actually help working class and poor New Yorkers a lot more than it would help the white college educated people making $150,000 a year plus. Now, in my view, there's no reason why Cuomo should even be in this race. Okay, there's no reason why he should be getting any support amongst anyone, considering that he's a sex pest and he's being investigated by the DOJ right now for his involvement in the corrupt schemes that killed a bunch of elderly people during COVID, not to mention his insane corrupt ties to Wall Street, not to mention his insane corruption over the MTA, not to mention that he's a radical Zionist that passed anti-BDS laws during his term and wants to make it illegal to criticize Israel, not to mention his corrupt support for charter schools, which has done so much damage to the public school system here, not to mention the fact that his campaign is being bankrolled by dark money Republican donors, not to mention the insane right-wing austerity he implemented as governor, cutting taxes on the rich while capping their property taxes at the expense of services for the public. Not to mention the tens of millions he took away from Hurricane Sandy relief to attract wealthy businesses. Or the tens of millions he took from the MTA to bail out a fucking ski resort. Or really his insane corruption when it comes to every single sector of the fucking economy while he was the governor, including creating the IDC, which empowered the right wing and helped kill progressive legislation while he was governor. So why he has any support amongst anybody is really fucking crazy. But I think the reason why he does have more support amongst Latinos and Black voters at this stage are for 2 reasons. Number one, he is showing up there. Okay. If you go to his Twitter, he's going into all the Black communities, all the Latino communities. He's going to their churches. He's going to food drives. Like, he is showing up in a way that Zohran's campaign. Are you guys paying attention? Because I don't see you guys in the church. This is the problem with the left having no fucking religious people, okay? I know Zohran is Muslim. What I'm saying is a lot of Black people and Latino people, they're Christian, they're Catholic, they're Baptist. And a lot of people on the left, a lot of organizers on the left are atheists. And they're not showing up in these churches to canvass and to try to persuade people in the community. And who are the people who will go into Black and Latino communities regardless of their socioeconomic status? Churches. That's a problem, folks. And then the second reason, which isn't talked about nearly enough, and I think one of the reasons why is because there's this idea that Black and Latino people are so liberal just because they vote for Democrats. That's not the case at all. Honestly, if the Republicans were not so over the top racist, really, if Republicans and conservatives could just stop being such overt racists, they would probably win a lot more elections.
Now, let me just pause here for a second. Look, seeing these numbers right now, let's see. The election's going to be in a few days. All right, it's going to be over sometime in June. All right, New Yorkers, you're going to get a brand new mayor. Whoever it will be. But to be the bad guy here, it's going to be Cuomo. Unless there's a miracle turnout or low turnout to where the other candidates could succeed, it's a foregone conclusion that Andrew Cuomo is going to be the winner. Or either that, if it's somehow a tied primary vote and it goes on, it's going to be Andrew Cuomo and maybe Zoran, and that's it. That's it. But at the end of the day, voters will go to Cuomo. And it's a sad state of affairs because it says a lot about human psyche and voter mentality. The name you know. And how do I know this? Because New York City politics, very similar to Chicago politics, plays out the same way. Name recognition, people you know. But the thing is, I'll say this. Excuse me. Apologies for that. I will say this. For Chicago, when it comes down to our politics, I mean, if you're hated and it's a name you know, hey, you're out of office. It'll happen to you. Is there accountability in Chicago politics? Yeah. I'll believe that when pigs fly. And all of a sudden a pig flies over there's no window in front of me. I'm just referencing that great scene from The Simpsons when Mr. Burns was said, I think I'll donate to a charity when pigs fly, and him and Mr. Smithers are laughing, and then a pig flies by and they shut up. Anyways, thought I had some humor here because the numbers are not good. These are not good. It's I don't want to say that it's over, but it's over. Okay.
They would probably get a lot more Black and Latino support. The Democrats are already bleeding Black and Latino male support, as we saw in this last election. But the thing that isn't talked about nearly enough is actually how conservative a lot of Black and Latino voters are. And I don't mean economically conservative. That's the thing, is that a lot of times when you hear Democrats or establishment Democrats say, like, yeah, Black and Latino voters are a little bit more conservative, they try to push on you that means that they're establishment, that they love the establishment Democrats.
Pincus, come on. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that evil on me.
Who are corporate shills and economically conservative. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a lot of Black and Latino voters are culturally conservative. And because there's like no one on the left that has any cultural conservative views, the left continues then to cede ground to conservative Democrats, corporate Democrats, corrupt fucking entrenched Democrats like Andrew Cuomo, who will use his Catholicism as if he's like really a practicing Catholic as a way to try to appeal to them and going into their community. Because really, if you think about it, the left not going into those communities, not really having anyone that is culturally conservative or religious, that just cedes all the ground to the Republicans and the corporate Democrats, neither of which really represent the conservative Black or Latino voter, but they don't really have anywhere else to go. Because again, they can't really go to the conservatives often because they're so fucking outwardly racist and hateful, but then they don't really feel they can go to the left either because the left is...
See, now, I don't want to paint the brush by saying, look, I've seen my fair share of racist Democrats and liberals, okay? You know, and I've seen my fair share of very open-minded and progressive conservatives and Republicans and libertarians. I don't like that, okay? Like, it's easy to say, oh, well, that side's overtly racist. Really? I've seen evil take many forms and shapes, okay? And what have I said on the show? Sometimes the greatest evil of them all can hide in the brightest of light and look like an angel.
So culturally liberal and non-religious, so then they end up just getting stuck with corporate Democrats, and that's how that shit happens. And this is also how the Democrats continue to hold them hostage, because they know this, and they'll be like, sure, we're not going to offer you anything, but what are you going to do? Go to the Republicans? I want to know what Zohran Mamdani's campaign is doing to it.
They're not going to do anything. I think it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. But I do want to pull up this video here. This is from local New York City news. Especially, I want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB. But let's go ahead and play this.
But first, Pix 11 is your local election headquarters, and new exclusive polling tonight showing a big shift in the race for New York City mayor. As we say thank you for joining us here at 5, I'm Erin LeBeau.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Candace Gibson. So former Governor Andrew Cuomo may not be running away with the Democratic primary anymore. Let's get right over to Pix 11's Henry Rossif right now. Henry, this race appears to be tightening.
Yeah, let's put this in context first. Most of the public polling that we have seen so far shows this at about a 20-point lead for former Governor Cuomo. Well, in brand new exclusive polling with Emerson College and The Hill, we here at Pix 11 can show you this. You have former Governor Cuomo at 35%, but look at that. Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani at 23%. So that's a 12-point gap there. And it gets more interesting as we move through ranked choice voting scenarios. But let's move through the entire poll first and show you this 12-point gap. It's much different than a lot of other polls are showing. You have Comptroller Brad Lander at 11%. And then we page over to show you some of the other candidates in play here. You have former Comptroller Scott Stringer at 9%. You have City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams at 8%. State Senator Zellner Myrie at 5%. Now things get interesting because remember, we have a ranked choice voting election. So what you do is you cancel all of these people out, lower down on the vote getters, and all their votes flow upward based on who people prefer. So let's go ahead and look at our top three candidates. You see the field getting tighter here. Under this scenario, you have former Governor Andrew Cuomo at 46%. So he's almost at 50, but not quite yet, which would give him the win. Mamdani is at 32%. Lander is at 22%. So what do you do next? Because no one has 50. You eliminate Lander, and his votes flow upward. Most of them go to Mamdani, but enough go to former Governor Cuomo to put him at 54%, and that would make him the Democratic nominee. But I can tell you this 8-point gap, 54 minus 46, is as close as any public poll has been in this race for mayor. And that's what makes this one very, very interesting as we head toward about a month until Election Day. Now, the top issues for New Yorkers, also very interesting. I haven't seen a poll like this in 4 years in the tri-state where something is rated above economy. You have housing at 30%. People really feeling the crunch of housing. Economy's at 22%, crime at 19%, and threats to democracy at 8%.
Issues for voters. Okay, housing, economy, number one. Crime, yes, of course. Threats to democracy. Don't worry, guys, my fellow New Yorkers, my fellow Chicagoans, people in red states and blue states, north and south, east and west, boomers, Xers, millennials, Gen Z. Guess what? Chicken butt. You don't have a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, but oh, wait. Stop there for 1 minute. Stop the presses. We actually live in an oligarchy. Okay, so look, it doesn't matter who you vote for. You know you're going to get screwed up the wazoo in the end anyways, right? So there you go. But yet here we are. 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 New Yorkers, I can't tell you how to vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but you know, I am rather impressed and shocked that Cuomo has taken such a huge lead. Now, polling data is one thing. Voter turnout is something else completely different altogether. And remember, this isn't the first time we've seen polls be shifted or changed or turned around. We haven't seen polling data get rigged before. I mean, it can happen. It can happen. But this is where, again, progressives and a lot of these activist groups really dropped the ball for the last 8 years, because perception will drive reality. And the reality is this. When we spoken to a lot of these activist groups and organizations, and this was maybe during the time starting from 2016, when the great Bernie Sanders progressive movement was still together, before the infighting, before the cannibalism, before the civil wars. I know. Happier times, maybe. Better times, debatable. Extremely debatable, but there was this idea of excluding the other, or is it at people that may not be as progressive? There was this puritanical point of view, and Russell from Due Dissidents definitely said it best. The worst thing you could do is actually win the culture war, because then all of a sudden you got nothing to fight against, and in turn that allows the defeated opponents to once again rebuild themselves. And see, the person you got to be worried about isn't how somebody worships or how they vote. It's the people at the top who dictate what you see and what you hear and who you're allowed to vote for. Because while we're fighting each other, we're being screwed over. And this is where we lead into local elections, such as the New York City election, where somebody like Cuomo is actually in the lead. To the opposition campaigns, it's either your messaging is really terrible or you got people who are just not putting in 100% of their effort into this game. And I think as a final note, I'm really am surprised, especially after 2020, just how much of a lead Cuomo is. And perhaps maybe that's just the power of coming from a well-known name. If he loses, it'll be the greatest upset, I think, in political history, at least for this year of 2025. There's been many upsets before. But I am flabbergasted. I don't know. If you're from New York City, weigh in on this. How do you feel about Cuomo potentially being your mayor after being governor in 2020? Is this something that's okay, especially with all the scandals that have followed him in the past? I mean, I'm one to talk because Chicago, hey, come on. We're still number one. Best in pizza, I know. But also number one in having corruption in our politics. So I guess so. And I think I'll just, maybe this is the best way to end it on. I believe in fairies. I'll give you the final note. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.